Hello everybody, welcome to our build today. Today what we're working on is we are building some axles for my 2002 WRX. Please excuse the title card, we just kind of threw it together. Alright, so basically what we're doing here is we are building us some hybrid axles. I'm going to be putting in an R180 rear differential because I want that STI limited slip. Unfortunately, I cannot afford to do the R180 hubs and parking brake and calipers and wheels, so we're going to stick with the R160 outer hubs. Now this is only in the rear. You don't have to worry about the front as much. That's a whole different subject. Okay, now what I'm doing here is only going to really apply to the 2002 to 2007 WRXs, the GDs. If you have a newer one than that or an older one than that, you're going to unfortunately have to do the research on what you need for that. But this is the 02 through 07 GD WRX, where you're putting in an R180 rear differential and you're reusing your R160 hubs. Okay, now the axles you're going to use for this are going to be coming from a 2007 through 2009 Subaru Legacy GT Spec B, and this is very important because the 07 through 09 Spec B came with a 6-speed STI style transmission and R180 rear differential. Here's the part number for it. That's 28421 Alpha Gregory 03 Bravo. You need 2 of these in order to do this, 1 for each side. You can go to Flatirons Tuning. This is where I got mine from. They had a Black Friday sale, so that's always a good thing to go to. Okay, now we're going to talk about all the stuff that you're going to need for doing this conversion. Obviously, get yourself some rags, some shop towels help, or paper towels, whatever fits your budget, I should say. Safety wise, obviously get some gloves and get yourself a nice pair of safety glasses. You don't want something getting in your eye. That definitely costs more than the build. Okay, here is a set of R160 rear axles. What we really need from these are just the rears. Now, to identify what's the outer part, look for the threaded portion. Okay, you're gonna need one pretty decently heavy hammer. This is a 48 ounce. Probably don't need one as heavy as that, but maybe a 24 ounce. But this is what I have on hand right now. I even have an 18 ounce, which is probably all we're gonna need. And a nice little dead blow hammer. You can go to Harbor Freight and get one of these. Little soft face mallet. They're inexpensive. You need a brass punch, and I'll show you why when we're knocking these outers out. But I got this from Harbor Freight some years ago. I haven't been able to find it since. Snap-on sells one that's a lot more money. Your best bet is honestly go on Amazon, and you may be able to find something for cheap. Don't need anything fancy for that. You're gonna also want a center punch type chisel. Okay, you see it's got that pointed tip. I'll be showing you why when we get to the axle bands. Get yourself a needle nose pair of pliers. You don't need anything fancy like we got here, which is a snap-on. You can get a cheap pair from Harbor Freight. It does not matter. You're going to want a pair of wire cutters, wire snips, dikes, whatever you refer to them as. I actually do recommend getting a decent pair. This is a pair of Macos. If you want Macos, I personally also like Klein. Knipex is pretty good. Get a flathead screwdriver and a small pry bar. Not necessary, but good to have. And this is specialty tools for the axle band clamps. It's not necessary. I was a Subaru technician for a long time, so that's the only reason why we have them, because we did them every day. Not necessary. Nice to have if you do have it, but it's not necessary. Okay? You're going to need some band clamps for the boots. I have a set of OEM Subaru ones here, and I got some cheap generic ones here. Okay, I didn't buy enough of the OEM Subaru ones. And then you got yourself your axles here and here. This one I pulled out of the box, this one's still in the box. Get yourself some WD-40 or a penetrant lube. It's good cleaner. You may want some spray paint for the old CV joints. You may want to clean them up and paint them. Before you paint them, obviously get some kind of cleaner, and then also get some CV grease, and some hand cleaner is always going to help you. Okay, so we're going to start off here with the R160 axle. Main thing we need to do here is remove these bands here. As you can see on this axle, they've already been removed. I'll be showing you what I do to get these off. And honestly, like I said, you need a good pair of wire snips. Get in there so you can grab both sides. You can see I'm actually grabbing on both sides. You can feel that. And just give it a good squeeze. Actually, that's double reinforced, so we're going to move to a different spot here. It's a little bit easier. Now, you can try to reuse these clamps, but honestly, they're just easier to just get a new set. Once you snip them, that's it. That tension's released. You can just take that, toss it aside, go to your other clamp here, find the thin part. What I mean by the thin part is, you see where I was trying to snip it? It's got double sides. So I had to move along until I found a thinner side, which is like right here versus here. Same thing applies to the small clamps here. So same thing, just find a thin side, work your clamp dikes in there, and give it a good cut, and you'll hear it when it snips. Nice little satisfying crunch there. Okay, so once you got those off of your boots, you may want to get yourself a rag, lay that on there. This does get a little bit messy. Peel this boot back. Do that on both axles. Okay. Now, this is where you're going to need that brass punch. You're going to take a rag, clean off some of this old grease here. Really, the only reason you want to do this is because you want to see this race right here. Take that brass punch, and you're going to put it against a nice little solid part there. And you want to whack it with your hammer. A little difficult without a table vise, but we'll make do here. I do need a heavy hammer. There you go. You see the teeth are showing now. I got that circlip to disengage. Just slide it off just like that. This circlip right here is what holds this joint on here. There's a groove in here that it catches into right inside. So all you need to do is give it a nice little whack to disengage that circlip. It'll come right out. Set that aside. This axle is done. We don't need it. So once again, give this a nice little clean. Get your punch, same thing, find a nice spot to put it on, and give it a nice little whack. It's easy enough, just pops right out. Just like that. Okay, now, you're going to want to give these a little bit of a scrub before we mess with them any further. So, get yourself your little rag, some penetrant lube, now hold it up so any dirt that falls won't go into the race itself. Now, a lot of people are probably like, oh, why would you use penetrant lube instead of just brake clean? But honestly, believe it or not, penetrant lube does work pretty good for this kind of stuff. See, watch that. Look how clean that gets. Essentially, we're refurbishing these, but that's clean enough for me. All right, and now we're moving on to the Legacy Spec B axles. So as you can see, the actual axle ends are different. So here's the R160 end we need for ours, and you can see completely different from the Legacy, which is why we need to swap these. Unfortunately, they made the splines on this axle fit on this joint. So same thing as we did on these axles, we'll be cutting this band on here. Careful not to cut this boot unless you have a new set, but I mean, it's already new, so why waste it? The band is not savable, in my opinion. So you want to do that on both. Now these boots are nice and soft, so I'm gonna see if I can get away without cutting that inner band. But we'll see. So let's see if we can kind of fold the boot out of the way. Just enough. I will try to save some of this grease so it's also not in our way. I'll save that in a rag. Right. So just like with those other axles, get your punch, get it on there solid, and give her a good whack. And I will tell you, it sucks doing this by yourself, but you got to make do. Okay, tried doing this outside on the table, and it didn't really work out for us. So I went ahead and we came in here. It's not an easy spot to film because my garage is a mess, but we needed a table vise. Makes it infinitely easier. But same thing, just go ahead and put that punch on and give her a good whack. And it comes right off. Just like that. I'm not going to show you on the other axle because you've already seen this on the other two. Okay, so now we have the old joints off of the Subaru Legacy axles. We have the R160 joints set up here. I'm actually using the cardboard to hold them up for me. It makes it a little easier to work with. So now we have to go to assembly, which is the bane of a lot of mechanics' existence, mainly because of this circlip. There's different schools of thought on how to reinstall it. The way I was shown was to seat this spline on here and slowly push in that circlip all the way around till it's just about to go in, and then pop it in. And that generally seemed to work out fine for me. It's a little time consuming, it's a little tedious, sometimes it's very aggravating. The other new school way I've seen is to take a zip tie and put it around here to compress it, and then once it slips in, you can cut that zip tie off. I'm not going to do that today. I'm not feeling like trying out a new method that I don't know anything about. Yeah, it looks pretty cool to see on TikTok, but I'm going to go with what works. So once again, just go ahead and, well, they said it should fit. Yep, there it goes. Okay. So you see that the spline slipped in, like they said it would. You see the circlip is not sitting even. So while applying downward pressure, you're gonna take your flathead and try and work that circlip into its groove. Which actually, surprisingly, I may have already done that. So you see it's the circlip slipped in there. So take your soft mallet and go on the top. Be a hard enough surface, so I'm going to get a little heavier hammer. I have to flip it upside down. There, went right on. Give it another couple taps just to be on the safe side. Yeah, there you go. That's in. So, well, make sure your hands are clean, but get some of that axle grease. And you want to work it onto that joint before you seal it back up. And we have some of that fancy new Subaru grease, so let's just go ahead and reuse that. All right, so then let's get that boot back on here. Clean that in a second. Let's work on the next axle here. Set that aside. So, work on that circlip and push it in. Take your grease, get it all over your arms. And if you don't have enough grease, Well, that's also why I recommended we get this jar of axle grease from the store earlier. And just work it in there. And since we didn't really clean these joints out, they're full of grease already. So I'm not too worried about having not enough grease. Just make sure you put a little bit of extra in there before you fix that boot up. Alright, and let's clean up for now and get ready for these bends. So, for cleanup, another reason why I recommend the penetrant, it really breaks down and cuts through axle grease. This is helpful to know, especially if you're doing an engine tear down. But you got a nice rag soaked in it, and yeah, look at that. Just wiped right off. Looks good as new. This is also why I recommend having a bunch of towels on hand, or shop towels. Give that a good spray down. And that will wipe right off. Pardon the helicopter noise. I don't know if there's a police chase going on or what. But yeah, let's get this clean, ready to be fully assembled. You know, when you're doing this kind of work, it's definitely good to take your time, clean everything real nice, and just not half-ass it. You'll be proud of yourself in the end for the work you just did. And I'll be proud of you too. But yeah, you take your time, clean it up real nice. You're gonna step back and see your work looks beautiful. So that's one clean. Let's move on to the second one. All right, now we're all clean. We can go ahead and band these up. One more wipe down real quick here. Let's see a spot I missed. All right, so we will grab these OEM Subaru band clamps. You can see mine are a little mangled. They were kind of floating around in the garage and getting stepped on a lot. But that's okay. They're still were functional. They're just bands. So you're gonna want your punch, snips, needle nose, and a flathead that you want to clean because we used it earlier on those axles. And if you have it, and you want to use it, you can get the special band clamp tool. Let me show you how that one works first, and then you can decide if it's worth getting or not. If you work at a Subaru dealer, I highly recommend it. Otherwise, if you're doing this at home, flathead and a pair of needle nose is all you need. Okay, so we left the inner band alone. We managed to fold the boot back. It's still a fresh, brand new boot, so it was still pliable enough. Go ahead and get your new band. Okay, and what you want to do is go ahead and work that on the boot. Carefully. Hopefully it's not too mangled for us to use. Okay, once you got it kind of relatively what I like to call hand tight, just bend that up. That'll hold its place there. So, get your special tool. There's different versions of this tool. What you want to do, stick that on there, loop that in there. Okay. You kind of just get your wrench. That'll tighten it, and you got to kind of get a feel for it. I go for a pretty snug fit. Snug as in that boot shouldn't be able to twist on the CV housing. And then once you got it to there, you can just lift it up just like we did before. Loosen that up enough to slip what's left out, and boom, that's nice and tight right there. So what you want to do after that, get your wire snips, give her a cut, fold that over, get your hammer, something with a flat face on it, okay? Crush that, okay? Now remember when I said we needed a center punch with a point on there? You're gonna go right in the center right here and give it a little dimple. Just like that. And that's gonna make sure it doesn't pop back out, and if it does try, it won't be able to slip through because of that dimple. But there you go. That's one axle basically complete. I might give it a little bit of paint later. But now let me show you the method without the special tool. So get your band, slip it on just like before. Okay, work that clamp. Right, so let me stick this hammer here to help me. Now, what you want to do here is, this is what I did at the dealer before I bought that special tool. Take what's excess of your clamp here, toss that, take your needle nose, grab it about halfway there, start twisting this like that. Take your flathead and leverage. See this flat part right here on the band? Stick your flathead right there. And what you do is you twist your needle nose, and that will tighten. You can see it moving. It's a little tedious, but if you're doing this at home and you don't want to spend the money on the tool, it's the best way to do it. Okay, you can see it's moving. You see it's tightening? Because you're going to twist against that flathead. Now, once again, you don't want to go too crazy. But you see it start to bend up? That's pretty good. You can bend it just like that. And a good way for me to check is to try to twist the boot against the housing. It's not moving. That's tight enough. You want to unwind that a little bit. Just like before, take your snips, give her a cut, fold that over, hammer with a flat face, get your punch, give her a quick dimple, and that's it. Bob's your uncle. Okay, so we're all done with the assembly. These axles are pretty much new except for these CV ends. And you can see there's a little bit of rust there. If it really does bother you, you want to take some sandpaper or wire brush and kind of just scrub that clean. I'm not too concerned with it. I'm just going to clean them with a little bit of denatured alcohol because I can't find my acetone. And give it a quick wipe down and get all that grease off. And I'll actually be using that cardboard from before. Hold it up. Now I like to use epoxy paint. VHT makes a pretty nice one that I like. It's rust and salt resistant, no primer needed, good for all weather, and pretty high heat resistant. So really the only spot you need to worry about is right here and here, this little spot. So we're just gonna hit that real quick. Don't worry about getting the boot and the band clamped. And that's it. We're all set. All right, everybody. I guess this is our outro shot. We're all finished. Axles are all assembled. All that's left really is cleanup. And I guess as I'm cleaning, let's talk about what we did today. Oh, and let me talk about myself. My name is Yuhan Kim. I am a 17-year automotive technician. Recently retired to a new career. I couldn't do the automotive anymore for various reasons I won't discuss. But yeah, I wanted to make this film today with my buddy John. I actually tried researching this video and nobody seemed to have a decent video up. So we figured, hey, you know what? I know enough to be able to do this, so why don't we just go ahead and film me taking care of this. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's instructional video, our very first video we've ever done. And I hope it helps you in your build, and if you have any questions, we'll try to help you out as best we can. No promises, but good luck out there, and I hope everything goes well for you.